Some things in fandom are built to last. Things like, well, Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica. And while some of those properties are being defiled at this very moment, the longest running sci-fi series that I can remember, at least of my lifetime, is still Doctor Who. And while it took a brief hiatus for a while and was ultimately brought back by somebody who seemed to care about the franchise, Doctor Who of late seems very much not like Doctor Who at all, and basically just a way to push about some thought processes that the general public is tired of seeing. How do I know that? Well, because the ratings are substantially down for Doctor Who, and that's not missed by everyone involved. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about today with a very special guest. Hey, Comix, how you doing? I think you might be a fan of Doctor Who.
I do. I enjoy Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I'm not a diehard old school Doctor Who fan, but I do enjoy New Who when it came back in 2000. And sadly, it went from being this amazing show to something that nobody gives a shit about anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that is kind of an unfortunate circumstance in that the audience is dwindling away. I've done several videos on my channel talking about it, and if you think about this, that less than 4 million people watched the last episode in the first week that it came out. Yeah. Not only on television, but also on all of their devices. I mean, the Doctor Who ratings accumulator on Doctor Who TV, it was surprising to me. And look, it's not lost on them either. And it's not even generating enough interest on Disney Plus to even find itself on the
front page.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awful. Well, it's funny because I remember being told that for every bigot they lose, 3 or 4 new viewers will show up, and apparently that did not happen.
Yeah, no, it didn't. This is the lowest number of viewers that they've had since, well, before it got put on hiatus the last time. So I don't think it's going well. But look, we're not the only ones to notice this. And so we need to bring in an article to talk about it, which is written by John F. Trent over on That Park Place. You know, John,
Yes, I do. I'm very familiar with John.
Pretty reliable guy, writes some great articles I think we all use. And since coming over to That Park Place and being the senior editor over there, he's written some pretty hard-hitting stuff. But even with this headline, he's basically recognized that Doctor Who showrunner Russell T. Davies admits that the show ratings are not doing that well.
No surprise, right?
No, I mean, we just kind of broke down the numbers. And of course, there's Millie Gibson, who may have done her last major part of this show. She's gone. She's barely in the holiday episode and maybe one other in next season, which they've already finished shooting. They've shot everything back to back. But according to the story here, Doctor Who showrunner Russell T. Davies recently confirmed that the show is not doing well in the ratings. No kidding. Like I was saying, not even quite 4 million.
Yeah, this is a shock to no one. And the only shock to me is the fact that it did not dip below, was it 2 million? That kind of hovered out.
It was right there. It was so close. It was like, oh, this is going to go under 2 million. It's like the overnight ratings were going to go under 2 million. Not quite, but close. Anyway,
pretty close, but yeah, not quite. It still was pretty bad though.
Yeah, so he went to a BAFTA event and basically broke down where everything was coming from. And he said, in coming back, I wanted to make it simpler and I wanted to make it younger. Those are two things. Those two things are often not discussed. You read reactions to it, people are missing that. It's simpler and younger, and it's working.
No, it's not.
Well, it's true. But he went on to say the under 16s and the 16 to 34 audience as well is massive.
Is it?
Are they? Yeah. I mean, you would think that if those facts and figures were true, and we just mentioned a moment ago that the Disney Plus numbers are non-existent. You can't find them. It hasn't charted. I would say that the young people over there aren't watching the show. And despite the spin, he did admit the truth. It's not doing that well in the ratings.
No, it's not.
But it's doing phenomenally well with the younger audience that we wanted. I guess. He's admitting here directly Comics, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're targeting kids.
Yes. They made that very abundantly clear when Russell T. Davies was being interviewed, talking about the ideology that they're pushing, that they want kids to be exposed to it. And this was for kids, and they want to do it safely, comfortably, as he put it. So, they're definitely targeting kids. And the whole idea is to push this ideology. It's not about entertaining people anymore.
Yeah, there's a word that we're not allowed to say on this platform. Well, the primary platform here of YouTube that starts with a G. And that would be the actual definition of G-ing, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, he says that Doctor Who remains one of the most watched programs on iPlayer. Now, Comics, I just shared with you.
Pretty pathetic if that's the case.
Yeah. Either that's a lie, right, with only 1.4 million people add on with the 7-day viewing, which includes the BBC iPlayer, plus the overnights. It's either a lie or nobody's watching BBC stuff at all.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. This is like, Disney saying The Acolyte is the, best show they've dropped this year on D+. It's like, well, you've only dropped like 3 things.
Yeah, I mean,
and the first one was not that good.
Yeah, Echo, right?
Yeah,
Echo was goodness, very bad. But so anyway, so that it's making it one of the biggest programs for the demographic across all streamers and broadcasters for under 35s. Well, again, targeting a audience with your messaging, which again, we've already talked about what that could be. So the spokesman also bragged about the season's premiere, which has only brought in 6 million viewers after nearly 2 months. 6 million.
Yeah, it's pretty low. I would think.
Very low. I mean, we're looking at, first of all, a CW show with Disney money.
Yeah.
That's what I would call this. And this season of Doctor Who premiered on the iPlayer nearly 24 hours before broadcast. And episode 1 has already been viewed, nearly 6 million viewers, and continues to grow. Now, the way they calculate views is a little deceptive. And consider this. If you are watching something on the BBC iPlayer, does it go on to watch another thing afterwards?
I have no idea. I've never used it.
Yeah. So, and that's a good question. I'd have to dig it out and play with it or ask somebody who has it. But Davies previously admitted that show's ratings were not good because it was reported by Doctor Who TV, as I talked about just a few moments ago. I'm very proud of it. They might not be the ratings we'd love. We always wanted higher, but they're building over a 28-day period. Episode 1, Space Babies, is already up to 5.6 million and counting. So it's getting there.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. That's one thing we need to take into consideration too. In the olden days, before something was being syndicated, it was basically people showed up and watched it, and those are the numbers that you got. Yes, occasionally, those numbers will obviously increase with reruns, but streaming is a completely different animal. For them to creep that number up over time is kind of deceptive, right? It's like it's in syndication now. People just aren't showing up. The interest isn't there. Yeah, sure, that number's going to creep up over time, but overall, the interest is just simply not there for the show.
Right. And look, it proves out in the ratings, which again, John did us the courtesy of showing the ratings from Doctor Who TV's website. This is their accumulator ratings for the year. You see these numbers?
Yeah, I know. It's like if you take a look at episode, was it 3 and 7? Those are some of the lowest numbers we've seen in Doctor Who. And the fact that episode 8 only creeped up a little bit, 2.2 million, that's really bad. I mean, it just shows you how much interest has dropped in the show. And the one episode where it did increase, which is episode 4, is because the Doctor himself isn't even in the show.
Or yes, very, very little Doctor in that. It was the companion episode, which they actually had 2 of. And, the episodes that featured Millie Gibson's character did better than you would think. It actually drove the audience higher. But when you look at it over the course of the 8 episodes, these numbers on the right-hand side are not good. 3.69 million for the season finale, or as they say in the UK, the series finale. That's not good. I mean, this really is CW numbers, right? And if you think about it, Doctor Who used to be rocking 7-8 million.
Yeah.
On the low end.
Mm. That's nuts, man. I mean, it just shows you how far the show has fallen. I mean, and I'm curious to compare these numbers against previous seasons, even with Jodie Whittaker. It's like, yeah, Jodie's numbers were bad, but they were not this bad.
Well, and when you look at Doctor Who Guide, this season has 5 of the 10 worst rated Doctor Who episodes ever.
Wow.
Ever.
That's bad.
It's insane. Nobody's watching this.
Not in the slightest, man. I mean, it's pretty bad. Well, and again, you know, much like with these other franchises that we all love, they've lost the audience. The reason why they lost the audience is because, like I say, that they didn't placate them. They didn't cater to the audience, right? That they had. They wanted to not change. Well, yeah, actually they do. They want to change who the audience is. They want to go and pursue a more modern, quote unquote, audience. And the issue is that the modern audience is the same as the old audience. And I'm really curious to see what their demographic breakdown is. Maybe they did get more Gen Zers watching it, but obviously those numbers are still going to be low because there's all these other generations that they're leaving out that could be potential customers that they've gone and alienated. And that's the same thing that we're seeing right now with Star Wars, with Star Trek. Literally every science fiction franchise has basically been tainted in this way because of the message, and it's chased people off. Yeah, no, you hit the nail right on the head. But there's one thing that I want to point out, Comix, and it's something that when you look at these charts, you can be deceived. If you look at the Battlefield Part 1 episode, that was from 1989. Yeah. There were fewer people in Great Britain at that time. Yeah. And this was terrestrial television. Okay. So when you scored a rating of 3.1, that was enormous back then because, you know, you have people inflation. Yeah. So it's one of the things that I think is really important to point out. But so as far as the claim that the show has the best numbers of the under 35s, that appears to be more a reflection on how poorly the company's other shows have performed with that demographic. Yeah. And again, this is something that Russell T. Davies is actually admitting. So we're going to wrap up this article right now with your thoughts, your final thoughts on the matter of comics, which is, you have any hope for this show? No, I don't. I think the season you're going to get after this one is going to be the last one, because the only reason why it's even here is because of the Disney money. Yeah. And, you know, Disney, they're disappointed in the numbers. They're not going to get the return on investment like they had planned on. And so, yeah, you're going to get one more season with Ncuti Gatwa, and I think it's going to go on hiatus for probably a decade, as it should at that point, just to cleanse the bad taste out of, you know, everyone's mouth at this point. Yeah, and find a creator that actually cares about it, like Russell seems to say that he did. And I would say he didn't. But regardless, I'm 100% in agreement with you there. I think it's going to take a nap, and I think it deserves it. Doctor Who, have a nice rest. We'll see you in 10 years. On that note, on that note, I just want to suggest everybody check out Comix Division, otherwise known as Ian K, on his channel, Comix Division. Spelled oddly, but it'll be in the description down below. And you can find us often paired together on lovely shows like the Monday Meltdown, the Thursday Throwdown, and of course the Late Night Culture Show on Sundays. Anything else you want to promote, Comix, before we wind it up? No, that's about it. All right. Well, I will promote it anyway. Check out our website, beachpunk.us, where you can get all the amazing merchandise that keeps a roof over our head at this point. So on that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.